Hi everyone, welcome to An Eye on AI, our weekly series where we pick out the top 5 things that are movers and shakers in the world of AI. First up, we're going to take a look at Adobe Premiere Pro, where they've just begun to include some very interesting AI features. So Adobe have been using their LLM Firefly and Photoshop for a while now, and they're extending it throughout some of their other products. And within the beta of Premiere Pro, which you can now get as part of the Creative Suite, you have the ability to see how the generative extend feature is going to work. And it's super interesting and super powerful. So basically, if you just open up a project and create a sequence, at the moment it only supports a couple of settings, so 1920 by 1080, 1080p, and then you're able to play the video through. And you can see here we have a 10-second video which has been generated, lots of movement in it, so quite difficult to emulate, generated in fact by Runway, I should mention. And now I can take the Generative Fill tool, which is just a little tool at the bottom, and I can extend the end of that video, being able to pull out. And when I pull out, at the moment I can just do a maximum of 2 seconds. So it's important to note that this does go into the cloud, so it's using cloud-generated content using the LLM as well. And you can see there 2 seconds of seamless frames that have been generated. Continues the movement, the eye movement of the woman, the picture and everything, and it's generated those 2 seconds. If I've got long audio or something like that, it's been able to generate that and fill that gap for me. And you can see there as we toggle between the original last frame and the first frame of the improved piece, and that is pretty seamless. So Generative Fill, Premiere Pro. Okay. So next up, we're heading over to, for number 2, we're heading to Netflix. So Netflix has been known widely for a very long time as the all-powerful streaming giant, which has been pushing video content out for many, many years. And it also, over the most recent years, has had a gaming arm, which has been creating interactive content for the Netflix platform. Now, what's really interesting is on LinkedIn, Mike Verdu has announced that he's moving from his position running the gaming part of Netflix to taking on a new position as VP Gen AI for games at Netflix. So I think what this says is, not surprisingly, that there is, as well as the standard gaming, they're going to be using Gen AI. And he talks in this post about being focused on a creator-first vision for AI. So I imagine that is trying to take some of the things that they've learned from building their very powerful streaming empire and the high quality productions that they have there, and taking that into the gaming space. I don't know whether or not that also means that there's going to be usage of AI within the space of kind of the code creation of the games, or whether it's simply the ability for creators to use generative AI to create games. But certainly it's a very interesting move, and I think it'll be quite a good move in terms of seeing where Netflix is. And Netflix is always a good one to watch because they have quite an interesting way of always being ahead of the curve, and they have a very technology focused output, which is also very interesting. So next up, in the UK, the Department of Science, Innovation and Technology has just announced that up to 15,000 people will be able to interact with the chatbot and ask it various questions related to certain specific things connected to the government. So these things are related to support that they might be able to get, taxation, and so on. Now, while 15,000 people on the grand scale of AI isn't huge, it might sound like a fairly typical use case, I think it's actually really interesting because it's one of the first things that's coming out of government. It's showing government be able to move relatively fast at adapting the new technology, and clearly it's something that has great benefits for the end users as well. So it'll be very interesting to see how this project gets along and the reactions and uses that this bot gets. Fourth up, Microsoft have been releasing a set of Python notebooks for a while now, each one of which is designed to help you understand and counteract bad actors working on your prompts or your LLMs. So the one that they've released most recently is to help you evaluate the safety risk of your application. So it will create a simulated conversation which is deployed through Azure, which allows you to understand whether or not your data set is whether or not your prompt is going to reveal protected information. But it also allows you to model whether or not there has been an indirect attack jailbreak. So a jailbreak is where a malicious prompt or a malicious application is trying to break down the guardrails that you've put around your or the provider has put around your LLM. So for example, if you have guardrails to prevent it swearing, then it might be trying to make the LLM swear in that particular case. Finally, this week, The Guardian in the UK is reporting a very interesting use of AI. So this is for people who hear voices and suffer from psychosis. This project, it allows people who suffer to visualize their voices as avatars, which are then generated by a large language model, and then the patients are then able to have conversations with the avatars. And this kind of displacement is apparently very beneficial and helping in the treatment of patients with psychosis. So that, I think, is a really interesting leading edge healthcare use of AI. So once again, thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back next week. Meanwhile, we'll carry on to keep an eye on AI.